How y'all doing today? Today I wanted to discuss something that probably doesn't get brought up that often, and that is, does the quality of skeletons that stores sell really matter? Different stores sell different quality skeletons. And this is one of the things that I kind of been noticing over the last couple of years, but never really registered until this year. And the quality of the skeleton that you use does matter based upon what you want to use it for. If you're using a skeleton as a background prop, it doesn't matter. If you're corpsing a skeleton, you're sitting in a chair, you don't have it laying off somewhere to the side, it does not matter. However, if you're making props that you want to take to the next level, like I made this groundbreaker a few years, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, using a skeleton. It's a higher quality skeleton. I can feel the quality through the corpsing here. You want to use a higher quality skeleton. If you want to make a zombie walker like this guy over here, you probably want to use a higher quality skeleton. And feeling through here, feeling the rib cage, I could tell that he was one of the higher quality skeletons. If you want to make a croco creeper or something like this, a creeper like I have up here, this is something I just made about a week or two ago. And I actually started with a lower quality skeleton when I was making it. And it led to all types of problems. It was flimsy, it was flexing, it wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I actually had to break off a bunch of parts and replace it with a higher quality skeleton to get it into the shape that I wanted it to. If you want to do an animatronic, I have a crouching ghoul in this pipe right here. If you're doing an animatronic, something that's going to be moving around a lot, you probably want to use a higher quality skeleton. Out there on the lawn, I have a skeleton that I designed last week to stand up. I probably did that last Wednesday. It's been in the ground since last Wednesday, maybe Thursday. Forget which day, but it's been up there for quite a few days now, and it hasn't moved an inch. That is a higher quality skeleton I use for that. If I had used a flimsier skeleton, there's a good chance it would not be holding up that well. So, to answer the original question, the quality of skeleton you buy can matter depending upon what you want to use it for. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the different skeletons that you can get from different stores and what type of quality they are. I have a skeleton I got this year, just a few minutes ago, from Costco. This is a skeleton I got from Walgreens last year. This is a skeleton I got from Home Depot probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And this is a skeleton that I don't know where I got it from, most likely CVS. And I probably have had this for at least 2 or 3 years. I want to take a look at each one, talk about pluses and minuses, and what makes a good quality skeleton versus a so-so skeleton. When I go over the different skeletons, some of the main things I'm going to look at are sturdiness of the rib cages, spinal columns, the limbs, and the skulls themselves. Got these two skeletons here. This was a Walgreens skeleton from last year. This is a Costco skeleton from this year. These are both of what I would consider like higher quality skeletons that you can buy of the cheap ones. I mean, there are a lot more expensive ones that you can get as a base for a prop, but these are within the realm of affordability. And one of the things is, I use these as a base for a lot of different props. However, I don't pay full price for skeletons. What I normally do is I wait until after Halloween, and I'll hit up Walgreens and stores like that, and they normally go on sale for 50% off and then 75% off, and you can get them really, really cheap. So this one I think last year was like $35. Once it went on sale for 50%, it went down to like $16 or $17. So I got it a lot cheaper, so I was able to get more of them. I've gotten them in past years where I get them for like $11 or $12, but by that point they're kind of hard to find, you don't get as many. So if you take a look at these two skeletons right here, I want to show you why I think these are higher quality skeletons. One, take a look at the rib cage on these. There's a lot of resistance. They're built well. It takes a lot of force to get them to really flex or bend. Let's compare them to the Home Depot skeleton and this skeleton right here. Okay, these two skeletons have a ton of flex in the rib cage. That flex is not something that you want if you're doing a creeper, or if you're doing a animatronic, or if you're doing a walking zombie or a standing zombie. And it's not just the rib cage. that is really, really flexible. Take a look at the leg on this. Trying to bend this back and forth, there is no bend to this. It's very sturdy. Let's take a look at the Home Depot one. Take a look at the Home Depot one. I'm barely putting any pressure on here. I can turn this thing around. I can actually do this thing, have it turn into a 360. Same with this one that I've got here. Same build quality, same flexibility. You also notice that their gaps are automatically forming right here when I flex this. That is not something that you're looking for in a high quality skeleton. This one doesn't flex, which is what you're looking for. Same thing with the arms. Okay, the upper arm does have a little bit of flex, not a lot. Lower arm, no flex. But compare that to the arm on this skeleton. This skeleton, once again, flexes all the way around. I'm barely putting any pressure on it to turn it around. But even the lower arm has a lot of flex to it. So if I'm doing a creeper or something like that, I definitely want to avoid really flexible type skeletons. Now, that being said, it does look like there might be one or two advantages to these skeletons depending upon what your purpose is. One of the things is the legs on these skeletons over here have a ratcheting system in the knee. That can help them stay posed. If you're having to sit down, that's perfect. But if you're having to stand up, it's not going to like keep standing up or anything like that. Another thing I do like about this skeleton is that the bolts holding the different joints together are located inside the bone. And what I mean is if you compare it to this one, which I consider a higher quality skeleton, one I'm more likely to use for a project, the bolts are visible from the outside. Now, because I oftentimes corpse the different things I use, that's something that gets covered up really fast, but that is something to consider. Next thing I would take into consideration when you're doing a skeleton is, once again, based upon what your purpose is. As I said, oftentimes I have them standing up, I have them in different poses, I'll have them look like they're walking across the lawn or climbing a tree or stuff like that. And for that, I want the higher quality skeletons. And it actually goes beyond just the skeleton itself. It also goes into the skulls. This here is the same skull as on this skeleton right here. This is the CVS or the older skeleton. The brand actually says Yikes in the Yard. This skeleton here is very light, but if you take a look at the skull is extremely flexible, easy to push in, very brittle. And for a lot of the projects I use, that's not what I really want in a head. If I'm making a creeper or something like that, I oftentimes drill holes into the back of the heads, and I use what I call a skull plug to attach PVC into the head to give me a strong connection. If this is really flexible, it's sometimes hard to get the connection I want. I have to search for the strongest, hardest spot, and that's where I'll drill into. But if I drill in up there or down there, it gives me problems. The Home Depot skull, of which I have an extra one here, it's actually got a really cool thing to it where see the eyes light up, and that's a pretty cool thing. However, one of the things about these skulls is that they're pretty heavy. When you compare this to, say, the skull from this Walgreens one's here, and for the skull from the Walgreens one here, I have an extra one right here. It is the same skull. We put it over here and we weigh them. This has the electronics and everything in it, plus the weight of the batteries. And if you're putting something that you're gonna have standing up and have walking and everything, you do want to consider the weight that you're using. A little bit of the weight in the head is not a bad thing, but if you corpse it up and you add weight from the corpsing and you add other things to it, it can add a little weight that can cause it to bend or sway. I might be overthinking it. I've never had that problem, but I can see that being a potential problem. I just want to bring that up. Take a look at the weight of this one. That's 13.5 ounces compared to one without electronics, which is 5.72 ounces. Now the one from Costco also has electronics in it, and for this one, the eyes light up blue. I prefer red, but you know, it is what it is. But if I put this one on here, this one's actually a little bit lighter. It's only 7.56. So one of the things to take into consideration is the weight of the head when you're doing your skeleton. Alright, so we're taking a look at the heads a little bit more. I just wanted to point a couple things out. Take a look at the skulls here. You can see there's a little bit of a different shape. Take a look at the back. You can see this one's larger in the back. This one's smaller. Now, this is the one that is flimsier, very flexible. I don't like to use these type of skulls for my projects because I have a hard time connecting the PVC to this, what I call skull plug. This one here, though, you'll notice the plastic is very hard. When I cut in there, if I'm pushing the skull plug in there, there's not a lot of give, and it holds in there pretty good. I mean, there's a little bit of flex, but nowhere near as much flex with that one. So that's another thing that I take into consideration. Of the ones that I tend to use, I tend to like the Walgreens one the most. The reason I like the Walgreens type skeleton the most, and quite honest, the Costco one seems like it's the same type of quality and same type, it might even be the same mold. When you take a look at these two types, they're incredibly similar. The spines are similar, the way they're connected are similar, the bolts that are showing are similar, they're all in the same spots. So I suspect that there's a maker somewhere. They make these things for both companies. This one, there's a little bit of a rougher feel to these rib cage. That's probably from the mold that they use, but that's the only difference I can really find between the two, besides this head has electronics in it and this head does not. All right, another thing to think about besides the ribs and the heads and all that type of stuff are the spines. Now, take a look at this spine right here. Come on in. You'll see this bottom spine is screwed in this spine up there. That's telling me this is not very sturdy. There's a lot of flex there. I don't want to use this for a project. This one, similar type of spine, but the spine seems not to have that extra screw there. It seems to be connected a little bit better. So the spine on that one's a little bit better. The spine on these two is what I'm looking for though, because it's one solid piece and there's really no flex at all. Now, generally, when people do tutorials or they talk about things, they talk about their successes. I want to show you one of my failures, and one of the reasons why it was a failure is I was using one of these cheaper quality skeletons. I think it was probably the same skeleton here. Something that I made last year, got probably about an hour into it before I was like, all right, this is just not working, it's not holding up the way I want to. The bones were flexing too much, it wasn't staying the way I wanted to. And I can tell this is one of the cheaper quality skeletons because when I look at it, the rib cage flexes really, really easily. So the reason this is a failure is because of the skeleton itself. So that got thrown on the junk pile, and I forgot about it until I started making this video. I looked up there, I'm like, I bet that was one of the cheap quality skeletons, and it was. Alright, so the last thing I wanted to do was just talk about which ones are my favorite, like which ones I like the most and why. Kind of recap what I've already talked about. This one, skeleton right here, I don't like it at all. If I'm using this one for, sit in a chair, I would lay in a coffin, where it's just sitting there not doing much or doing a corpsing job on it, it's absolutely fine. But anything beyond that, I would stay away from this as far as, I just want to get away from that. I don't like it. Too much flex, too flimsy, I don't like the head, not for me. The Home Depot skeleton, slightly better. It's got like the cool lights that light, eyes that light up and everything. While it's the same type of skeleton as this, it actually has a little bit more sturdiness to it, not much. See, there's still a lot of flex in here, it still bends around really easy. The spine is okay on that, but overall, it's kind of hard to say because these are so easy to find. Home Depot carries them, they're a cheaper price, but with that cheaper price, $30 or whatever, $28, comes a little bit of less sturdiness. And I gotta have that sturdiness in the props that I do. That brings me to the two that I would have no problem using, and those are the ones from Walgreens last year and the one that Costco has now. Now, keep saying Walgreens last year. I don't know what Walgreens don't have this year. I don't know how they're on, like if they don't have the same build quality and everything. So if you do go into Walgreens and you do want to build something beyond just like having a skeleton lay there, you might want to check out the rib cage. Make sure the rib cage is really sturdy. Might want to make sure that the skull is really sturdy and that the limbs themselves are really sturdy. So if Walgreens has the same skeletons as last year, I would say absolutely use it for any projects that you have. Also the Costco skeletons, the skeletons are in the stores now. Around here I think they're $38 or $39. If you go online I think they're $42 or $43, and that might be with shipping or without, I'm not sure, but I did look online. And these are good quality skeletons. Good quality rib cage, arms are sturdy, skull's sturdy, eyes light up. Just a couple things to think about.